Email leaked of Jeffrey Epstein claiming that Hillary Clinton had a sexual relationship with former attorney and White House counsel Vince Foster. The email reads, Nussbaum White House counsel, Hillary doing naughties with Vince. Vince Foster died of an apparent suicide. Foster, the number 2 lawyer at the White House, was found dead at a Virginia park from an apparently self-inflicted gunshot wound. Vince Foster's death on July 20th, 1993, was officially ruled a suicide by 5 separate governmental and independent investigations. Despite these official findings, the circumstances of his death continue to be a subject of conspiracy theories and speculation that foul play was involved. A book titled Bill and Hillary, The Marriage, alleges that an affair between Vince and Hillary began in 1977 when they were both lawyers in Little Rock, Arkansas, when Bill Clinton was governor. The author, Christopher Anderson, who has written a string of books on celebrity marriages, quotes Arkansas state troopers who guarded the governor's mansion as saying that Foster showed up like clockwork, often staying the night. Rumors circulated that Bill Clinton had something to do with Foster's death after it came out that him and Hillary had an affair. A clip of Norman Macdonald on The View saying we need to get the murderer out of the White House, referring to Bill Clinton.
Good to get the... See, I think we should get the homicide out of the White House and get like a fresh start, because we don't want any more murderers.
I think we should just go on to the next question.
Who are the murderers?
Yeah.
Oh, Clinton, he murdered a guy.
Yeah, you know, we're not allowed you're not allowed to put out no accusations without
That's a little too far.
That's the way it does work.
Let's just go on to the next question.
In an interview with Barbara Walter, Hillary Clinton was asked about the rumors surrounding Vince Foster's.
Anytime we've been accused of something, eventually we have proven that it was a dry hole, that it was just another in the string of accusations. And we will do the same with these.
Mrs. Clinton, while we are clearing up rumors, you know there is the reoccurring rumor about you and Vince Foster. What was your relationship with him?
Oh, he was one of my dearest friends, Barbara. He was a colleague, he was a partner. He'd been a friend of my husband's since they were boys of 4 or 5 years of age, and I miss him. I miss him very much, and I just wish he could be left in peace, because he was a wonderful man to everyone who knew him.
You know, there is then this whole business after his suicide of whether you tried to have records removed or have them examined before they were shown to the Justice Department. And you have said that you did nothing to impede the investigation into his death, had no concern over access to the documents in his office. But then there were these blizzard of phone calls, you were in Arkansas, visiting your mother, from the Chief of Staff, Maggie Williams, from the White House Counsel, Bernard Nussbaum, from their close friend, Susan Thomas's phone calls back and forth, back and forth. And when Mrs. Williams and Ms. Thomason testified before the Senate committee, they keep saying they can't remember. So again, it all seems very mysterious, and it looks as if you had something to cover up. What?
You know, I want to be very clear about this.
Okay.
There were no documents taken out of Vince Foster's office on the night he died, and I did not direct anyone to interfere in any investigation. I know very well what we were talking about. We were grieving, we were supporting each other. I was asking questions about how other people who were close friends and colleagues of Vince were doing, how his family was doing, and some of those phone conversations consisted of us sobbing on the phone.
And nothing was taken from Vince Foster's office that you asked to have looked over, kept from the eyes of the
I didn't even
government?
know he had documents of mine in his office, so that doesn't make any sense at all.
CBN released a special surrounding Foster's death, saying that the Clinton administration might have knew what really happened.
When Vince Foster left his White House office on that July day in 1993, he told his secretary that he would be back. But the deputy White House counsel and boyhood friend of Bill Clinton never returned. And almost 3 years later, theories and speculation about his mysterious death live on. On July 20th, 1993, Vincent Foster's body was found here in Fort Marcy Park in Northern Virginia, just outside of the District of Columbia. But that's about the only thing about Foster's death that all parties can agree on. How Foster's body got here, even how Foster died, is still not clear. The 1994 report by independent counsel Robert Fisk says the evidence overwhelmingly supports the conclusion that Vincent Foster killed himself in Fort Marcy Park, and adds, quote, "There is no evidence to the contrary." But that is simply not true. Here are just some of the inconsistencies, many from Fisk's own report. Police say Foster walked to the edge of this steep berm, sat down, and pressed a 1913 .38 caliber pistol deep against the back of his mouth and pulled the trigger. The gunshot wound should have been extremely gory, because a large caliber handgun often leaves a large wound, while the heart typically keeps pumping, leaving a lot of blood and brain tissue called blowback all over the weapon. There was none. The coroner said the exit wound for the .38 caliber bullet was only about 1 inch wide. There was an unusually small amount of blood under Foster's head, and no bone fragments. No bullet was found either, even though searchers managed to find all sorts of ammunition dating back to the Civil War. Powder burns indicate Foster's hands were not on the grip of the gun when it was fired. His teeth were not damaged from the recoil of the .38. There was no trace of soil or grass on Foster's shoes, even though he supposedly walked 700 feet through the park. No one in the park that day ever saw Foster alive. No one reported hearing a gunshot. Foster's fingerprints were not on the weapon. Foster's wife had trouble identifying the gun as her husband's. The .38 was made from 2 guns, fitting the classic profile of a hard-to-trace drop gun, often used to make murders look like suicides. Foster was covered from head to toe with carpet fibers. Blood tracks on his face and shoulder indicate his head had been moved in as many as 4 positions after he allegedly pulled the trigger, even though death was determined to have been instantaneous. And blood trails from Foster's nose and mouth inexplicably defied gravity and traveled upwards as he lay on the steep slope. Critical crime scene photographs are missing. The first paramedics on the scene from this fire station in McLean, Virginia, said they found Foster lying perfectly straight as if ready for the coffin, and suggested later they thought it was a homicide. And some of their accounts about where they found Foster's body differ from where the park police say it was, suggesting police wanted to conceal the real crime scene from reporters and others.
At what point do you begin saying something is wrong here? This doesn't add up.
Chris Ruddy of the Pittsburgh Tribune-Review is the only reporter known to be working on the Foster death full-time. His work has been compiled in the book Vincent Foster, The Ruddy Investigation.
There's been a tremendous reluctance by authorities to look into this case. We saw that Robert Fisk came along and basically rubber-stamped the police investigation. His FBI agents went before Congress and said the park police made no major errors in their case, which is laughable. Ken Starr, the independent counsel, said he was going to look into this, but we know that he has been unwilling to get to the bottom of this.
Starr's lead prosecutor quit last year after he said he was kept from pursuing the case too vigorously. There were plenty of witnesses in the park the day Foster was found, and you're about to hear from one of them. Washington, D.C. resident Patrick Knowlton was at Fort Marcy about an hour before Foster's body was discovered, and he agreed to this exclusive interview with CBN News. Knowlton has passed a polygraph test.
As soon as I came up the driveway here, I noticed a brown Honda parked there, older reddish brown, rust brown colored Honda with Arkansas license plate. As I pulled in, I saw another vehicle parked maybe 4 spaces down. I didn't see the license plate. All I saw was a single gentleman sitting in the car. He had the car backed in. But then when the window came down and he gave me this intense glare like, you shouldn't be here kind of look, you should leave kind of look, I took it to heart that he was here for some kind of activity that he wasn't here to enjoy the park. That's what I thought. The glare was just very intense and just made me feel very uneasy.
Knowlton went up into the park to relieve himself, and when he came back, he noticed a dark blue suit jacket, a briefcase, and 2 empty wine cooler bottles in the brown Honda with Arkansas plates. Knowlton called authorities the next day, but was never questioned until 9 months later in 1994. Then in 1995, when he was subpoenaed to appear before a grand jury, strange things began to happen.
I was actually beginning to be harassed by well-dressed men who approached me either head-on or walked at me or walked from the side of me or walked from behind me, just giving me intense glares.
Men Knowlton said were clearly trying to frighten him into not testifying. He took witnesses with him when he was followed, including a reporter who verified that it was not his imagination. Then there's the mysterious letter that the White House offered as Foster's suicide note. The letter, torn into 28 pieces, suddenly appeared in Foster's office briefcase after it had already been searched twice. The letter is in fact not a suicide note, and it has no fingerprints on it, even though it was found ripped in more than 24 pieces. Even stranger, 3 leading handwriting experts examined it and declared it to be an obvious forgery. But perhaps most disturbing are instances where FBI agents either misstated what witnesses told them or tried to get them to change their story. Knowlton says what he told agents was changed in the official report.
When I was shown those 302s, I looked at them and I started reading them and thinking, you know, those aren't my words, that's not what I said.
The FBI version of Knowlton's statement said that, among other things, he would not be able to pick out the man he saw in the parking lot in Fort Marcy.
What in fact I told them was if they showed me a lineup or if they gave me a photo spread, I could have picked the guy out, you know, very easily.
With the help of a police artist, Knowlton even sketched this drawing of the man. FBI agents also appeared to try to get Arkansas State Troopers to change their account of the time that they learned of the Foster death. Roger Perry, a 20-year veteran, was working as Governor Jim Guy Tucker's bodyguard on July 20th, 1993, when he received a call from Helen Dickey, who was Chelsea Clinton's nanny.
It was sometime between 6:30 and 7:30 p.m. Helen Dickey called me from the White House and told me that Vince Foster had gotten off work that evening, went out to his car in the parking lot, and shot himself in the head.
You remember those words specifically?
That's the exact words. I wrote those words down on a steno pad.
When Dickey called Perry is crucial, because if there is a cover-up of the Foster death, it could unravel around the White House claims of when it knew about the death. If the White House knew earlier than it says it did, then that would have allowed officials time to clear Foster's office.
If you crave nature but still shop online, Night and Day Herbals is your dream come true. Discover premium herbal soaps, shampoos, and CBD products. All organic, all for you. Shop now at nightandayherbals.com.